living on planet Earth, the chances of dying young in the next year are much larger than if you were on the moon. Something went wrong in the world, and with each new year, it becomes more evident. With so many concerning events starting it's a period, but the overall impression is that since the pandemic that occurred in 2020, humanity seems to have gotten too close to the edge from a widespread collapse. Let's understand this and other assumptions better. It is signaling something much worse. By any chance, back in 2020, did you think COVID would be something quick and not so deadly? Now knows he was greatly mistaken, since the viruses have been among us for 3 years and 3 months. And until the declaration of the end of emergencies, the disease claimed millions of lives in every country. Around the globe, the one who thinks that all of this is over and it's not possible to face another pandemic is also mistaken. Might not be from COVID, but there are many other things in labs out there that you have no idea how serious and deadly might be. In the first week of January 2024, the Pan American Health Organization, about the abbreviation OPUS, released a new epidemiological report focused on the respiratory viruses circulating in the Americas region. The report emphasized the importance of maintaining surveillance of these viruses and strengthening response capacity of health systems, especially amidst current outbreaks of other transmissible diseases. The year 2023 was marked by a significant increase in acute respiratory diseases in the region, mainly driven by the circulation of SARS-CoV-2. From COVID-19 to influenza virus and respiratory syncytial virus, the syncytial virus, or virus syncytial respiratory, is one of the main causes of respiratory tract infections and apples in newborns and young children. According to the infogripe bulletin released by the Oswaldo Cruz Foundation, RSV infections were responsible for 59% of severe acute respiratory syndrome cases in children up to 4 years from December 11th, 2022 to January 7th, 2023. Just in Brazil, meanwhile, populations in the Northern Hemisphere are currently experiencing epidemics of the 3 viruses, which are common during hell. Meanwhile, some Southern Hemisphere countries are experiencing higher than usual incidence for the season due to the circulation of SARS-CoV-2. It's interesting to note that at least here in Brazil, and it is believed that in most other countries that have gone through it, who went through the pandemic, people left behind the habit of washing hands with water a bit. Even businesses, companies, and commercial buildings no longer offer alcohol at their doors for customers. Maybe people have forgotten that various respiratory diseases could be prevented through simple and inexpensive hygiene. But do not think that only us, humans, are subject to the mass attack of viruses. In a way, the fauna is also compromised. According to the Wildlife Conservation Society, Chris Walzer, Executive Director of Health at WCS, described a devastating scene along 300 kilometers of Patagonia's coast. According to him, 95% of southern elephant seal pups are found dead. The reason? A highly pathogenic version of H5N1, the avian flu virus that wiped out at least 17,000 specimens last year. The advancement of the microorganism on mammals has alarmed experts they fear a massacre in wildlife and a potential risk to humans. Recently, the disease was identified for the first time in elephant seals and seals in South Georgia Island, a region, subantarctic region. Until then, no other mammal from this British territory, located south of the Atlantic Ocean, 1,000 kilometers from the Falkland Islands, had been infected. Last year, there was an outbreak among the brown skuas, seabirds endemic to the area. Meanwhile, at the other end of the world, an unprecedented notification emerged at the end of last year. A polar bear listed as vulnerable on the International Union for the Conservation of Nature's Endangered Species list. On Wildlife Conservation was found dead in Alaska, victim of bird flu. In an interview with Alaska Beacon blog, Bob Gerlach, a veterinarian from that state, confirmed this was the first case of its kind recorded anywhere in the world. He also warned that it would not be surprising if new species...
If targets were achieved.
...by the highly pathogenic microorganism. 2 years ago, the first cases of H5N1 were detected in North America in Avila. It's believed that the polar bear fed on an infected bird. We must ignore the fact that birds migrate every year. And during the migration period, they pass through various places and even countries. This is one of the most likely ways to infect local animals. Through contact, big goals ahead. In the case of the polar bear, it was suspected that it had eaten an already infected bird. It's like what happens when bats and birds feed. They feed on certain fruits in a different place from where they pick them, end up collaborating with the spread of the tree elsewhere. Although that's highly positive. But when it comes to spreading viruses, it's not good at all. Diana Bell, a professor of conservation biology at East England University, it warns that despite the minimal risk to humans, the spread of H5N1, completely pathogenic, indicates a significant crisis in biodiversity that requires immediate action. The spread of the virus to subantarctic regions, and the recent case of a polar bear killed by the virus, from the virus in the air, highlight the widespread distribution of H5N1 among mammals in vulnerable ecosystems already threatened by global warming. The real issue extends into the human environment from the moment when animals prepared for slaughter start to get infected, and this might happen if actions are not taken. Well, leaving the animal health department, let's move on to other events. Since everything points to 2024 being a significant year, dozens of elections around the world, conflict started in Russia and Ukraine, and in Israel, Gaza still unresolved, and more landmarks expected in just about in all areas of life, from global temperatures to space exploration and artificial intelligence. Phew, there's a lot going on. Do you remember that in August of 2023, one of the Hawaiian Islands almost got lost in fire? Remember that? Literally, the cities of Lahaina and Kulang on the island of Maui, they were almost entirely burned, taking hundreds of lives with them. The terrible fire sparked various hypotheses and conspiracy theories, but even if they haven't found the real reason, the official verdict was the heat. The weather will rarely be dry and the wind strong as a cause. I suck it. The country now faced, at the beginning of February 2021,
I support you.
The same problem that occurred in Hawaii, described by the Chilean president, Gabriel Boric, with the greatest natural disaster of the last 15 years. The east coast of the country, especially the cities of Valparaiso and Viña del Mar, was hit by a forest fire of enormous proportions. The incident so far seems to have decimated the lives of 112 people, not including the missing, which are also in the hundreds. Thousands of homes were destroyed by the flames that swept through the mountainous settlements around the tourist city of Viña del Mar starting on Friday, fueled by strong winds. A regional state of emergency was declared and a nighttime curfew imposed. The consequences could be worse than in Hawaii. In South America, it's not just Chile facing emergency situations with fires. Colombia, which by the way is considered a country with high humidity, also faced similar situations, becoming the stage for dozens of fire outbreaks. In January of 2024, a series of devastating forest fires led the country to declare a state of emergency in 2 regions. Flames consumed about 600 hectares of forest in the departments of Santander and Cundinamarca, where the capital Bogotá is located. The fires were fueled by record temperatures linked to the electric climate phenomenon, NEST, and to global warming. But half of the country's municipalities were on red alert due to the threat of fire. The news could only be worse, because in the case of Colombia, the official number of victims is small. Small, although it is an unexpected and unwanted loss for the family of the single victim. Wildfires have become increasingly common and devastating due to a combination of natural and human factors, such as climatic phenomena like
It's about
climate
climate
changes,
change, right?
such as global warming, have also increased the frequency and intensity of wildfires. Lightning and other natural phenomena contribute to starting fires and ultimately human action, which besides contributing to climate change also involves unplanned burnings, which end up causing an environmental disaster. The year 2024 promises to be very hot and dry in various regions of the planet, including all of the Americas and much of Western Europe. This means that such events will likely recur in the middle of the year, the central 4 months being the most likely period. According to weather stations, the year 2023 marked the planet's rapid warming. Earth had its hottest year in 150,000 years, and estimates are that 2024 will be no different. Also, in the scope of major natural disasters are the volcanoes. Currently, there are several of them active on the planet, but some are more concerning than others. Now, in Italy, for example, there is Mount Vesuvius, the one responsible for having engulfed Pompeii in the year 79 of our era. But the biggest concern among volcanologists isn't with it, but rather with the Campi Flegrei, an apparently innocent plain that stretches for 200 kilometers beneath the Bay of Naples and the islands of Capri. Flegrei is a giant caldera, a depression left by a volcano around 2 billion years ago. Now it has become a supervolcano. Campi Flegrei, in fact, wasn't just opening a volcano, several more, and one of them started to show strong signs of activity in November 2023, the year in which more than 3,400 earthquakes were also recorded, with 1,118 occurring just in August. They weren't high-magnitude earthquakes. The largest one, in October, reached 4 on the Richter scale. The problem was the frequency and quantity of them, whose total was the triple those that occurred in 2022. This region in Italy houses about 800,000 people, with 500,000 of them located in the so-called rough zone or red zone, an area that covers 18 cities and where the greatest risk of eruption exists. Naples, with 3 million residents, is close to the eastern edge of the caldera, meaning it's not far from danger. In line with Carlo Doleoni, according to the head of the National Institute of Geophysics and Volcanology of Italy, there are 2 possible scenarios in the Phlegraean field. The best one, it glimpses an eruption as mild as the one in 1983. The other is something like what happened in 1538, when a mountain was formed in Baia. We know Iceland is a beautiful country, as well as cold, and surprisingly, one of the richest cradles of volcanoes on the planet. According to volcanologists who have studied the region since the tectonic plate theory emerged. In the 1960s, Iceland is very close to one of these plate meetings. When they separate or come together, the lava tends to rise to the surface. The biggest problem with this type of activity is that it's silent, that is. It doesn't give much prior warning that it's going to explode. The volcanic activity near the city of Grindavik is exactly like that. And more recently, between December 2023 and January 2024, one of its volcanoes erupted 800 years after an ice snap. It didn't cause any casualties, but it's another volcano coming back to life after many years. And this has also been seen in other volcanoes. Experts worry about multiple eruptions happening at the same time, just like the activity that can happen in what's called the Pacific Ring of Fire, which represents an area located in the north of the Pacific Ocean, with about 25,000 miles of extension, stretching from the Andes Range to the Philippines. Is considered the area of the planet where the most seismic and volcanic activities occur, which gathers around 80% of the world's volcanoes. Well, moving away from the realm of natural phenomena, which are already concerning, we will now venture into the most complex field of all, human. We all know wars are unnecessary. Everything, historically, has been a way for one country to maintain sovereignty over another. Since Russia invaded Ukraine in an attempt to reclaim the territory for itself, the world has started worrying again about a potential Third World War. It's not for no reason. Countries like the United States and several others in Europe, such as England, Spain, Belgium, and Germany, for example, felt the Ukrainian pain and decided to militarily aid the country. If the United States and European Union intervene in an issue considered exclusive by and for Russia, the Cold War scenario, which precedes something worse, emerges once again to haunt the world. To make matters even more worrying, Israel is attacked by an extremist group initiating the conflict now known as Israel-Gaza. This, in turn, is even more feared than Russia versus Ukraine. This is because it involved not only Americans, but also other countries from the Middle East, such as Iran, admittedly a partner of the Russians and foe of the United States. The Russian President Vladimir Putin, Washington has been showing constant signs of annoyance with the West, even going so far as to mention its tactical nuclear bombs, and from time to time, being prepared to maintain Russian sovereignty. And the world fears something called the Tsar bomb, considered the largest and most powerful nuclear bomb on planet Earth. Putin's bomb, the conflicts, the ongoing actions, showing no signs of a ceasefire, have also had serious consequences on the global market. How much are the rats? A group from a political religious movement in Yemen, funded by the Iranians, They attacked some cargo ships in the Red Sea. It is worrisome, not just from an economic standpoint, but also in terms of production and logistics. Can't ships just change their course? Yes and no at the same time, for there are routes that cannot be diverted. And as business cannot wait, the way it's the captains and their crew, usually made up of 25 to 30 men, to proceed as planned and solve, so they won't be confronted by attackers. The Red Sea is one of the main commercial maritime routes of the world, accounting for 12% of transactions according to estimates. This amounts to more than $1 trillion a year. If these attacks continue, what's already on thin ice, the world economy, could take a hit, taking a fall with consequences incalculable. And speaking of the economy, everything we've seen so far has really contributed to a nearly certain outcome. Global financial chaos. The pandemic, without a doubt, was one of the main causes of economic decline in most countries, especially in poorer countries. Natural disasters have also contributed to the spending of billions and billions of dollars. Now, with these endless conflicts and so far without a solution, the trend is that 2024, due to a terrifying financial collapse, as reported by the British newspaper The Guardian. According to the newspaper, there was an explosion of extreme poverty in England, and the rates of destitution, as they refer to the 100 ceilings over there, more than doubled in the last 5 years. The United States are fighting another internal war against invasion. The United States are fighting another internal war against invasion. The United States are fighting another internal war against invasion. Opioids from a skyrocketing number of homeless people. It's really 2024 could be a very tough year to deal with. What remains is the hope that humanity will still find a way to live together better, to have mutual respect, and instead of envy, to admire someone else's success, as well as to take them as an example. But what has been observed is far from it. Anyway, it's better to be prepared and ready to face new challenges. Thank you for watching. See you next time. A big hug. Goodbye